Hello, welcome to Game On, your brand new podcast feature from the team here at Daily Record Sport. Every Friday we're bringing you the best of the Scottish sporting scene and beyond. And the big difference is it's going to be in big bite-sized chunks. This is going to be a quick, hot take, rapid-fire approach to all of the sporting hot topics of the day. Myself, Michael Gannon, I'm joined with Gavin. We're going to be getting stuck in. The format is here, Gav. We've got 2 minutes to get to the point, or we'll get beaten by the whistle. So this is a format for quick wits rather than half wits. So say no more than that, will we? So without further ado, let's kick off with Scottish Cup weekend.
Oh, one of the best weekends.
One of the greatest weekends in the calendar. Where is the big shocks coming from?
Well, do you know what? Friday night, under the lights, TV cameras there. I think it's all set up for Brechin City taking on Hearts. Hearts still having nightmares from playing Highland League opposition just a few years ago when they lost to Brora in this very competition. I think Craig Halkett was talking about it. That bus journey back, it must have been absolutely
heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, and a few ex-Hearts players in the Brechin ranks as well, like Brad Mackay, Kevin McHattie, Anthony McDonald as well. So I just think the hedge, TV cameras, the lights, it's all there.
Oh, that's a bold one.
Yourself?
I think we should be looking further north.
Yeah.
The Derby, the Northern Derby. I know it's called a Derby. Listen, Elgin. If you ever drive from Aberdeen to Elgin,
I know.
It takes about 4 days. But it's still, we can class it as a Derby. Aberdeen, horrendous form. Memories of Darvel still haunting people up there as well. Elgin up the road, one of the great grounds. We talked about Brechin and Glebe Park, one of the fantastic grounds in Scottish football. I think Borough Briggs is another one of these fabulous Scottish football grounds. You get the fairground next door and all that stuff. It's sometimes you get more punters in the games. But I think you got to say Aberdeen are really struggling just now. I thought they've got 12 games that are win.
Yeah.
I heard Andrew Constein saying that that's a chance for them to get a bit of confidence and back. I'm like, you're very optimistic.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a game you'd be really nervous about at this point in time.
It's funny, sorry to interrupt you, just when you're talking about Borough Briggs, it just takes me back to when Rangers were coming through the divisions and they played up there. I don't know if you remember, Michael, I think it was Graham Tatters, the old chairman. They had to rearrange the game because they sold too many tickets. They'd miscalculated trying to cash in on the Rangers' journey at the time, and they had to rearrange the game. And that's my only time at Borough Briggs. I had to go back up there to cover the game for the Daily Record. It was
Never got to the Dundee Derby as well. The whistle's gone. The whistle's gone.
Of course, Michael, Holders, Celtic, they're at home to Kilmarnock, Saturday tea time. Again, the TV cameras. Now, one man who is getting in for a wee bit of criticism just now, and I suppose the price tag isn't helping him, £9 million, Adam Idah. Have Celtic been stung with that record transfer fee?
Well,
sorry, not record transfer, apologies. £9 million, big transfer fee.
Yeah. At the moment, you've got to say they're not getting much bang for their buck from the big fella. Listen, we can quibble that the fee was 8.5 and rising, or 9 or 9.5, but it's split halfway. Still, either way, it's a lot of money. You've got to say, if he was getting sold tomorrow, would he make that money back? Probably not. So they're not getting value for money. He's going through a spell. He's gone 12 games without a goal. 6 of them are starts. Missed a terrible chance at Dundee to go 2-0 up at Dens Park in midweek. A crucial moment, and he took his eye off the ball. So he's clearly a guy who's out of confidence. I think he's at a big juncture just now in his Celtic career. You look at last season, the reason why Celtic spent that money was because they knew what he could do. He produced the goods last year. He was terrific the last 6 months with a key role in winning the double. This year he's not been himself. He's not getting the game time, so he's not managed to get in a rhythm, really. And now he is getting game time. He's clearly not up to speed. But what he needs to show now is that this form just now is just a little dry patch, a little bumpy spell, whereas last season was the norm. What it can't be is that last season was a purple patch, and this is the norm. Yeah. This is the point he's at just now. He's got to kind of prove that that last year wasn't a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
That's his regular game.
Yeah.
But he looks like a striker who desperately needs some kind of goal. And it's the old cliche, isn't it? Needs one off his backside or something like that. He needs something to get him going again. Because clearly, when you look at the chance the other night, that's bread and butter stuff. So it's certainly a concern, especially for Celtic. Well, let's talk about Kyogo and the transfer window and all that stuff. I mean, smoke and fire and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't think Celtic would be tempted to sell him in this window, and I don't think they can sell him while they haven't really not really getting the best out of Adam Idah.
You mentioned the fee. You know, what actually is the fee in the Dubai? It's always the way, isn't it, with clubs? You know, when they sign a player, the fee is it's huge, and then it doesn't quite work out, and it's like, well,
we meant 900,000, not 9 million.
Well, we never actually paid that. Oh,
yeah, good stuff. But listen, speaking about guys that are under pressure, is Jimmy Taylor under pressure at Aberdeen? I mean, like, you think of the incredible start to the season. People are talking about them being title challengers. 12 games without a win.
I know. It seems inconceivable that we can be talking about this guy being under pressure when you, as you say, you know, the start that they had. But a phrase springs to mind, and I think it was one that I mentioned to you a few years ago, actually, in Record Sport Towers. Is 1 minute you're a peacock, the next you're a feather duster. And he sums that up. The contrast is just unbelievable. And even in this terrible run that they've been on, you know, if they just had just even a couple of wins in there, but it's just the fact it's been so bad after, you know, such a flying start. But you look at somebody like David Gray at Hibs, who was the opposite. You know, started badly, and then, you know, many people thought he would have been sacked. He's completely turned it around.
Yeah.
And now they're on a fine run. So, look, if he was under pressure at the start of the season for being on a run similar, then you have to say that Jimmy Taylor is under pressure, regardless of the fact that he only came in the door in the summer. Now, he has been really well backed in this transfer window. Yeah. So this is the thing. They need to see improvement. Now, it can't keep going on like this, or, you know, his job will be under serious threat.
Yeah, I don't like to say I told you so, but I did say early in the season that run they went on was a little bit of a false impression. It was amazing. They dug out some great results, but they were overperforming. And I thought at some point that's not going to be. They can't maintain that, and they're going to come back to it. I didn't think they would completely go off a cliff like they have done. I mean, I've seen people talking about a reverse Cinderella story. So you start off with a glass slipper and end up with a pair of battered baffies. But they really need to. I still think they've got a strong squad. I think they've strengthened in January. The worry was the game at Rangers in midweek. I thought they were poor. I mean, I've seen Aberdeen teams that are far worse Aberdeen teams than this current one, going there and really putting up a good fight and really giving Rangers a hard time.
Yeah.
Didn't see it.
That was the worrying thing.
Yeah.
That was the big worry.
Looks like a team in short of confidence.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned Rangers there. The Rangers women's team are in action this weekend. A big game against their rivals, Celtic, in the Sky Sports Cup semi-final. That's a big one, Michael. But also this week, interestingly, a story, I don't know if you saw earlier in the week, about exploratory talks involving Celtic and Rangers women's team possibly joining the English top flight. I felt as if I'd been transported back. I mean, how many times did we hear that when it was the men's?
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see for the women's teams. Quite an interesting story, even if it is early stages.
But you got to view the women's game its own merits anyway. So it's a big game this weekend. It would be huge for both clubs if they get into that women's Super League in England.
Yeah.
Because the finances there, they've got a great TV deal. Probably a bit on our one for the men's game up here. So that would be life-changing, game-changing for them for a start. The big question is it a Trojan horse? Yeah. And that's where everyone's going to be looking at it, thinking, because if that can happen on that side, I know it's separate, and that's what the argument will be, that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
However, if it can happen for the women, there might be legalities around that, because listen, we know Celtic and Rangers have been, you mentioned that, been banging on this door for many, many years.
Yeah.
If it creaks open, they might try and charge through.
Yeah.
Interestingly as well, I think there's a move in Wales to have the English-based Welsh teams competing in the Welsh Cup again, like they used to.
Yeah.
Remember back in the olden days, the 70s and all that stuff, you had teams like Cardiff and Wrexham and Newport County on Europe because the cup competition is away to Europe.
Yeah.
If that happens, all of a sudden, well, there's a cross-border situation that, because in the previous years that the Welsh teams couldn't compete in their own country because they're part of England, they're in the FA Cup. If that happens as well, all of a sudden things are starting to shift again.
Yeah.
So, listen, we don't want to hijack the kind of women's match at the weekend. It's a huge game in itself.
Yep.
But this is a bigger picture thing at play.
Yeah.
And you might see wee opportunities to start knocking on that door again because I think there is going to be leagues coming in that kind of format.
And also, Michael, I think it's important. I think something really has to happen here with the SWPL, because you look, Rangers beating Queen's Park 14-0.
Yeah, it's true.
Move on.
Anyway, Whistles beat
Where
us
we
that
going
one.
next? Back to the men's team.
Back to the men's team, sticking with kind of old firm. Philip Clement, who at times looked a goner at this season, but a couple of big performances and results again. And he's surviving.
He just keeps pulling himself
He does.
back. It reminds me a bit of Ronnie Dyle at Celtic. You remember he used to be under pressure and just pull out a result.
So can he survive long term?
Well, I still get the feeling it's just a matter of time. I think they are going to hit a wobble. I mean, you're right. I actually thought they played okay on Wednesday. As poor as Aberdeen were,
I thought they were really good.
I thought Rangers did play well, and that is the thing. Well, look, we all know this is the whole problem. It's the inconsistency. We know, we have seen what they are capable of doing, and then you look at the league table and you see that they're miles behind, and that is the problem. I don't know if you saw, there was a video clip of the Rangers chairman actually speaking in a hospitality suite earlier in the week, and he actually described the away form as horrendous. I don't know what Philip Clement would think of that. Yeah, well, he's right, but it was the fact that he said it and said it so openly. But that tells you what he thinks. Yeah. But Patrick Stewart was next to him. Patrick Stewart has already come out and backed him and said there are bigger issues here. They have to try and get to the bottom of them, and just dismissing the manager would almost be the easy option. But I think it will be a matter of time. I think they'll eventually go on another very poor run. The gap at the top will get to a stage where they don't have any other option.
Yeah. Well, that leads us to the next point. Mm-hmm. Who would be the man to come in? I mean, personally, I think Rangers, if they're going to try to somehow narrow the gap with Celtic, they need to go big. I think they need to be ambitious, and I think they need to be a kind of big character like a Sean Dyche. Someone who, when you walk in the dressing room, people go, right, okay, we've got a serious operator here, a big name. I mean, we talk about wages and all that stuff. Listen, you go and spend £4 or £5 million on Danilos and Dessers and all that stuff, and don't do the business part. Spend that on a manager. That's the most important job in the business, isn't it?
Yeah. I still think get back to basics, Derek McInnes, but I won't get a chance to explain why.
You're too late.
Because we're going to move on to bowls, Mick. It's a 2025 World Cup. Never mind the darts, never mind Luke Littler. January is all about bowls. Are you a bowler?
I'm getting set up here because my knowledge about the bowls is well, people are going to say about the same as it is about football right off, but it's close to zero. Yeah. And you are you're the Daily Records. Well, this is the attraction, isn't it? Yeah. You're the Daily Records expert and master bowler as well. I've heard a champion. I'm actually in the midst of a champion bowler here.
You're right. I took it up actually a few years ago, and I did win a club champion. Don't get me wrong. There's only about 5 members, or maybe a few more.
How old are the guys you're beating?
That's not fair. Listen, this.
Well, it doesn't help when they've got a walking stick. They're trying to bowl as well. You're playing against them.
Old man's marbles. It's not anymore. It's a young man's game. No, bowls. It's on the telly right now. And Stuart Anderson is going for back-to-back titles. The first since Tatty Marshall. Remember Tatty Marshall?
Yeah. Well, we've got Tatty scoring at the record.
That's enough of that. Actually, there's controversy in this year's tournament. I don't know if you saw it. It's played in Potters, which is down in the south coast. That's the mecca for bowls. That's
the Crucible. That's the kind of
Wimbledon and Cheltenham. But they weren't going to allow Israeli competitors in the tournament this year until Rupert Lowe. I don't know if you remember him, controversial at the time when he was chairman of Southampton. He's now a politician for Reform UK, and he managed to get that ban revoked. So Israeli players are allowed to compete. In fact, Stuart Anderson is up against one. As he looks to make it 2 in a row.
Get a Scottish winner, hopefully. Get a Scottish winner.
I was dying to hear what you had to say about bowls.
Well, I'm surprised you're sitting here. You should be competing in it. But obviously you're not quite ready for that yet. Maybe next year. Speaking of Scottish winners, one of our best ever Scottish winners, Andy Murray. We saw him in the coaching box for Novak Djokovic. What do you make of it?
Just strange. It must be hard for him, I suppose. It's a bit like footballers. You hear footballers saying, when they, make the most of their playing days and play for as long as you can, because, when it's over, you won't realise how much it hits you. It must be difficult for him to be in that position. You're watching him in the telly, sitting in that coaching corner, having been out there competing for so many years. Must be difficult, but listen, great for him to be able to still be part of it. Any sportsman talk about the banter in the dressing room and the locker room and all this kind of thing. So he's managing to get a bit of that, and it's good that he's not just completely lost to the game.
If you're Djokovic, I know that Djokovic is one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest of all time. But there's a lot of coaches in tennis, and maybe these guys haven't had a career that fantastic themselves, and now they're coaching. That's why they're coaching. Mm-hmm. Whereas Andy Murray did have that career. So if Andy Murray says, "Listen, Novak, I see you're doing this, that, and the next thing," he's going to listen to him, isn't he?
Yeah. He commands instant respect. It's a bit like we talk about football. Again, if a manager walks in, to a dressing room, you can get instant respect by their CV, right away. So he's going to get that. But it must be a fascinating dynamic, because they've been these great rivals for so long, and obviously they were, I think they've been friends as well, coming through. But I wonder if you'll ever have to give him the hairdryer. Yeah,
I didn't see. By the way, see that I would like to see Andy Murray transfer on sport and get him into football. I can see him. He's got that gruff, moody Scottish. He's like the great managers in Scottish football history are always that kind of attitude. Yeah. Get him into football. When you see guys in other sports crossing over and getting involved in football, he's got guys from rugby backgrounds and cycling backgrounds. Get Andy Murray in a dressing room. How much more inspiration can you need than Andy Murray standing there giving you your team talk?
Yeah.
Come on, boys.
Come on.
Get him in the Hibs. Get him in the Hibs to help David Gray. That's his next job. Well, on that.
Well done.
Oh, then we'll get Andy Murray the hip. Sorry, David Gray. We don't mean punt David Gray. As a coach, don't mean to say as a manager. But anyway, we'll be beaten by the whistle. But listen, that was our first bash at your new feature, Game On. I think we just about survived it. Listen, thank you all for listening. Come in next Friday. We're going to be here every Friday for this show, all your hot takes. But thanks for watching this week's episode. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All the usual sources for your podcast needs. And if you like what you hear and see, send us a comment. Nothing mean, please. Nothing about Gal's Bowls. But listen, we'll be back next week on Daily Record Sport, and we'll see you all then. Thanks for watching.